Good morning, everyone. Did somebody say overflow room? I can't even believe that. This is like my first full house in a while here, I think. I appreciate you all coming to Denver today. It's beautiful here. We're going to have a great week, lots of good content, lots of good people here. I'm really looking forward to it. I want to start by thanking two groups that made all of this possible. First, big thank to our program committee and program chairs. They've done an amazing job. Let's hear it for them. Second, to our sponsors, special shout out to our platinum sponsors, Amazon Web Services, Ericsson, Google, IBM Cloudability, OpenSearch, Red Hat, and the Valky project. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items for this week. First, we have a solution showcase that opens daily after the keynotes right next door in this ballroom. You'll find sponsor booths, job boards, all kinds of different activities. That's also where coffee and lunch is going to be served daily, and where our on-site reception will be tomorrow evening. Today we also have our Better Together Inclusion and Accessibility lunch. There's a network opportunity for our marginalized community members and their allied guests at noon at the Go Gourmet Cafe on level 3. Join our Ask the Expert sessions that are the speaker office hours in the afternoon today. So this is a good way to sort of speak one-on-one with community leaders. That is located behind the escalators in the Bluebird foyer near registration. So really good time to go and speak with experts. Tonight we have a speed networking trivia edition at 5:20 p.m. also in the Bluebird foyer. No registration required, just show up. And most importantly, at the end of the keynotes each day, we will hold a raffle where we'll give away some fun prizes. So does everybody have raffle tickets? You got raffle tickets when you walked in? All right, you're going to regret not having one if you don't. We have a Ruco F11 Pro drone with camera, Beats Pro headphones, and a Back to the Future Time Machine Lego set to be raffled off. So some good prizes. Stay till the end. Finally, a reminder, we have an event code of conduct for everyone attending that you've agreed to abide by and that we do enforce, so make sure that everybody is respected and included. If you have any concerns, just go to anybody at one of the registration desks and they can assist. So those are all of our housekeeping tasks for the day, and I hope you all have a great week here in Denver. Today I wanted to just talk a little bit about how things have been going at the Linux Foundation in 2025. The Linux Foundation is sometimes accused of being inappropriately named in 2025 as we have so many projects beyond Linux at the Foundation, things like Kubernetes and RISC-V and Node.js and just a PyTorch, a huge array, thousands of projects that we're now home to. But I just can't give up the Linux name because I love it so much and it is universally recognized. So when you hear the word Linux Foundation as an organization, think of us as more than Linux. And to that end, we've had some pretty cool things going on in 2025 beyond Linux that I'd like to talk about. First of all, the OpenInfra Foundation recently joined the Linux Foundation. So I want to welcome that entire team to Linux Foundation family. Let's hear it for the OpenInfra Foundation. This is the home to projects like OpenStack and Starling X and Kata containers. We not only got some great technology to be a part of the Linux Foundation, technology that is a ubiquitous part of cloud computing, but more importantly, we've had a great group of people join the Linux Foundation, and as our organization grows into new technologies and new project challenges, those experienced folks have just been a huge addition to the team. Some other cool stuff that's going on at the Linux Foundation. One that I thought was worth highlighting is in the area of artificial intelligence. So You know, AI is kind of having an open source moment. DeepSeek dropped in January, and the world sort of woke up to the fact that open source models can compete with proprietary frontier foundation models in artificial intelligence. And since then, there have been multiple open source models that have dropped. And if you look at charts that show comparisons of performance of closed models versus open models, what you'll see is that gap is getting very, very narrow. That open source models are essentially on par in performance for proprietary frontier models, which I think is a good thing. That provides a dramatically lower cost for people implementing AI applications. It provides access to important technology that will change all of our lives. And in that context, it's important that artificial intelligence models also be secure. And to that end, the Open Source Security Foundation has released an AI model signing framework. So what this does is when you go and download a model from someplace like Hugging Face, you can use this technology that supports things like SigStore that makes sure that the model that you're downloading is from the actual creator of those models that originally are testing to producing it, so that you can trust the supply chain of that model infrastructure. You're going to see more things like this come out in AI. I think this is a great start. Definitely worth something to go check out if you're working on building AI models, if you're using open source models in particular. Another cool thing going on at the Linux Foundation that maybe you haven't heard of, but I think is worth mentioning. How many people here have heard of the Open Universal Scene Descriptor technology? All right. Like 3 people. Shame on you. This is super cool. So this came out of Pixar and is a way for essentially creators of film and video technology to basically create a universal way to describe a high-end animation workflow with very minimal coding. And a group of students up in Canada, basically in Quebec, used this tool to create an award-winning film called A Beaver's Tale, using completely open source production tools. It really shows you how much open source has changed the film production landscape. These students were able to, in just a minimal amount of time, create a really compelling film using entirely open source tools. Definitely, if you haven't seen this, A Beaver's Tale, go check it out. Literally 22 undergraduate students in Quebec created this film. And it's not just students who are using open source technology in the film industry. I think another cool highlight from this year comes from the actual Oscars, the Motion Picture Academy. This year's winner for animated feature films created the film entirely using open source technology, which is just really incredible. You know, before open source tooling was used in film production, every studio used to go and like stand up an incredibly elaborate, expensive proprietary production system, all these animation pipelines, and then once the film was done, they'd break everything down and they'd have to start in the next film. And years ago, the folks from Lucasfilms, particularly Rob Brito, an Academy Award nominated visual effects producer and president of Industrial Light and Magic, came to the Linux Foundation and said, you know what, we're not really in the technology business, you know, we're in the storytelling business at Disney and Pixar and Lucas and so forth. And what they did was open sourced a huge amount of all the tools that they use to create visual effects, you know. And so this particular animation, they basically created everything using open source, tools like Blender, OpenImage.io, and much, much more. And it wasn't just flow. The winner for visual effects in the main Oscar awards, Dune Part 2, also used these open source tools for the visual effects in those movies. So next time you go to the movies and see, you know, a Star Wars film or an Avengers film or one of these huge blockbuster CGI-driven films, it is very, very likely that everything you're looking at has been created using open source technology. Another big milestone at the Linux Foundation this year, our RISC-V project has shipped 1 billion RISC-V cores through NVIDIA. Pretty impressive, you know. Got some RISC-V fans out there, I love that. So, you know, and NVIDIA sort of quietly transitioned away from its proprietary Falcon microcontrollers years ago to RISC-V. And as their, you know, GPUs have just become the fundamental building blocks of AI data centers, that brings with it dozens of RISC cores every time they sell an H100, one of their cutting-edge GPU platforms. And so, you know, it really shows just how fast the RISC-V semiconductor instruction set is growing, passing over 1 billion cores with just a single vendor. And speaking of 1 billion, another highlight from a Linux Foundation project, our Overture Maps Foundation crossed 1 billion points of interest in its geospatial mapping data set. How many people here know Overture Maps? Okay, good. So this is a really interesting new open source phenomenon. It's really more of an open data project than an actual open source code initiative. And in the age of AI, I predict we're going to see a lot more of these projects. What it is a collaboration that started originally with Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and TomTom to set out to create the largest shared, clean, high-quality geospatial data mapping set in the world. And it turns out that doing so actually takes a considerable amount of work. They raised about $30 million for the initial seed funding to go about doing this. And have now created an incredibly high-quality geospatial data set that can be used for mapping service providers and can be used to train models specifically with very, very high-quality geospatial mapping data. I really think you're going to see a lot more of these. And if you don't understand just how important clean and curated data is in a world of AI, just look at the recent investment by Meta in Scale AI. I think it was $18 billion, or maybe it was $14 billion, I can't remember the exact amount. It's not a small number that Mark Zuckerberg invested to take 49% stake in that business. This is a critical part of building artificial intelligence models. And I think we'll see both closed data sets that come from companies like Scale AI, but I think we're increasingly going to see a lot of open data sets that like-minded organizations are creating, labeling, cleaning, and curating, like Overture Maps. So this is a big milestone for the Overture Maps Foundation, but my opinion is this is really the canary in a coal mine for a whole new movement of open source data initiatives. I want to highlight another interesting project going on at the Linux Foundation. You know, a lot of you don't get to hear about all the different stuff going on at the LF, and I thought today would be a really interesting time to just kind of go through the things that like you probably never heard of that are going on at the Linux Foundation that are pretty cool. Tazama is one of those things. So Tazama is something where we've partnered with the Gates Foundation to create an open source implementation of real-time monitoring and prevention of financial fraud for financial services organizations in developing countries. You know, in a lot of the developing world, access to financial services is not something you can take for granted. And there is a lot of work that needs to be done to build up banking access, to prevent a lot of fraud that is rife within these developing economies. And so Tazama has recently dropped its first production release of this financial fraud monitoring. It is highly scalable. I think they can do something like 2,300 payments a second. And it is being evaluated and will be rolled out in the developing world in order to provide better financial inclusion to folks who have not previously had it. This is a really cool open source project because it's sort of, you know, in one of these corners of the world where, you know, in a world of blockbusters like Kubernetes and Linux, you don't hear about them. But if you're a person who lives in South Africa and parts of sub-Saharan Africa that doesn't have access to financial services because the banking system there just can't afford to meet regulatory requirements because the cost of implementing this tech is so arduous, this is something that is an absolutely life-changing technology and worth highlighting. You know, worth checking out. So if you haven't heard of Tazama before, go to their website, check out what they're doing. I'm hoping that projects like Tazama can inspire other digital public infrastructure initiatives that can help sort of bridge the divide between the haves and the have-nots around the world. A couple of other things that are happening at the Linux Foundation. We have some new research that came out the first half of this year. One paper on the economic and workforce impacts of open source AI. If you want to know if the singularity has happened yet in artificial intelligence, this paper is worth reading. But we've also started looking at things around regulatory requirements in addition to sort of workforce papers. One of the things that we took some time to look at is how the Cyber Resiliency Act is being received in companies. In particular, this is a European regulation that puts cybersecurity requirements, does have an impact on open source communities. What we discovered is that there are many organizations that are not quite ready for the impacts of some of the new regulatory requirements around open source. If your company does business in Europe, this paper is something that you should go and check out in order to make sure that you're ready for these requirements that are imminently coming down the pipe. Finally, the last thing that we are looking at is the Open Source Security Foundation has taken a look at cybersecurity roles and responsibilities as it relates to open source. This is a working document that your organization can use to help you continue to secure your software supply chain. More cool things happening at the LF that you've never heard of but should. How many folks here have heard of C2PA, the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity? What C2PA is a digital watermarking technology that assures that the content that you are looking at on the internet was actually created by the content creators themselves, that it's real. So to give you an idea how this works, if you have a Sony or a Leica or a Canon camera and you're taking photos, this actually is embedded in the camera itself, in the tool that you use to create this content. And it follows that content all the way across any modifications that may happen in things like Adobe's tools or many, many others. There's a huge coalition of content modification tools that support this standard. But one of the things that was difficult for this standard as content hit the internet was that these CDNs who, you know, companies like Cloudflare that I think are responsible for something like 30% of the world's internet traffic, as they're serving up this content, if they don't support the C2PA standard, that very last mile would sort of break this chain of authenticity credentialing, and that was obviously a huge problem. And so Cloudflare has taken the step to support C2PA. I think we're going to see more CDN providers step up and support this. And what this will do in an era of, I mean, just insanely good deep fakes, insanely good AI-generated video, really help us know what's real and what's not. I predict 1 or 2 years from now, you will be looking in, maybe the upper right or lower right corner of your content for these authenticity marks to make sure that that content is indeed real. Another couple of cool things going on at the foundation. CNCF has launched a new job tool called Get Jobs. This is something you can go on and check out job opportunities in the cloud computing space. In PyTorch land, we are seeing a huge amount of momentum for the PyTorch platform. PyTorch really now has become the de facto building block, the de facto transformer platform for building large language models and Frontier Foundation models. In fact, Hugging Face recently deprecated support for TensorFlow and now exclusively supports PyTorch on their platform. This is a huge endorsement for PyTorch essentially becoming this de facto tool. In addition, the PyTorch Software Foundation has sort of broadened its umbrella to include other adjacent technology projects. VLLM and DeepSpeed are a couple of them. I think VLLM is one worth highlighting. This is a tool that helps for scaling inference. Is something you should definitely check out if you're in the AI space. Really the industry is consolidating a lot of the effort for scaling inference on VLLM, so worth checking out. Just I think 2 days ago, DeepSeek dropped a 1,500 lines of code, small VLLM implementation that is just incredible and worth checking out. My prediction is you're going to see lots of new technology around VLLM, things like LLMD and other scaling technologies that will help to lower the cost of inference and make these models more performant over time. So really cool stuff going on within the Linux Foundation around artificial intelligence. I want to also take a moment to talk about a cool thing that happened recently at the Linux Foundation that is sort of something that we don't all appreciate enough in open source, but is worth recognizing. Recently, the Linux Foundation's legal department received an award for their trademark work. So how many people here realize that the Linux Foundation has like a half a dozen attorneys who are working in-house full-time on all your projects? Quite a few of you. How many of you have met and dealt with our attorneys? All right. How about a round of applause for the lawyers? So our team, our trademark team, won a trademark award going up against organizations like Rotary International, the International Red Cross, and was recognized literally in the Oscars for the legal community for their work in nonprofit trademark compliance and advocacy. That is a pretty big deal. And it really goes to show you how important trademarks are in open source projects. In a world that is fundamentally about intellectual property, copyright in the code itself, licenses that govern those open source projects, trademark compliance, a deep understanding of when a project is named something, that name means something, is critically important. And Daniel Scales and his whole team at the foundation manage thousands of trademarks worldwide every day and do an incredible job with a very, very small team on a huge amount of work. So I'm really happy to see that award. Secondly, how many people here have heard of the value of open source report that Harvard University published that estimates the value of open source at $9 trillion in demand side value? How many people have read this report? So Harvard University went out and Harvard Business School went out and looked at if the world had to go purchase all of the open source software that all of us depend on every day, the cost of purchasing that software would collectively add up to $9 trillion, which is an insane amount of money. Roughly 3 times the market value of NVIDIA. which is also kind of insane when you think about it, but it's a significant value. I'm happy to announce that the Linux Foundation has brought Frank Nagel, the author of that report, on as our advising chief economist. He will be working on an ongoing basis at the Linux Foundation, looking into the economics of open source, and hopefully helping a lot of you explain to your bosses and senior management the value of open source. How many people here have ever struggled explaining the financial value of open source to your senior managers or business folks? Why does that surprise me and then not surprise me at the same time? I think the work that Frank is leading is going to genuinely help you with real data in real time about the value of the actual software that your company uses every day. Frank's going to come and talk about this a little bit later on in the session and show you some of the cool work we're doing in this area. So those are cool things that have happened. We got some awards. We got some new folks joining us. But I kind of want to sum up goings on at the Linux Foundation in terms of cool things that have happened in the last few months by showing you one of the poorest photos, but an iconic moment that recently happened last week, a meeting of two minds at Mark Russinovich, the CTO of Azure's home in Seattle. That is right, conspiracy theorists dig in, but Linus Torvalds and Bill Gates had never met before and recently got together for a dinner. Dave Cutler, I think, was at this dinner as well. So they, I'm sure, talked about programming languages and all kinds of incredible things. But it's sort of a full circle where open source is now so ubiquitous that we've come to peace with all proprietary software organizations that had previously been somewhat at odds. So it's just been an incredible year so far at the Foundation. I could probably talk for 2-3 hours about all of the things that happen every week at the Linux Foundation. One of the things that I do every week that I think some of you may be aware of is I write a weekly newsletter of everything that's going on at the Linux Foundation, everything that's going on in open source across a variety of categories of industry. How many people here get my weekly newsletter out there? So quite a few of you. So one of the things that we're going to start doing in about a month, as soon as I can figure out how to actually send this, I'm going to sound like a bit of an old man here. It is currently being sent, yes, if you can believe it, from my Gmail. So if I fail to do BCC and CC everybody, you're really going to have to forgive me on this one. But we want to be able to send this out to all Linux Foundation members. And so for those of you who are getting the newsletter, I'll give you a one-time permission to privately send to some friends of yours who are other Linux Foundation members to give them a sense of what this newsletter looks like. But one of the things that I'd like to do more and more at the Foundation, and I think Open Source Summit is a good place to talk about it, is provide more timely updates of all the cool things that are going on in open source and at the LF. So I look forward to doing that, and I hope you all take the time to read the newsletter each week. So with that, that's what's been going on, but this week we have some special new things that we're announcing at the Linux Foundation. So the first thing we're going to announce is a new set of research reports. This is our annual State of Tech Talent Report 2025. So this drops today. So we survey 500 global hiring and training leaders on all sorts of new jobs that are happening in tech, about AI's growing influence in tech roles, whether or not we're all going to be replaced by AI. Punchline, we are not. And this is something worth checking out so that you can keep your skills sharp, you can figure out where you can recruit talent. Go and check out that report. It drops today. Second announcement we have today is the Joint Development Foundation, which is part of the Linux Foundation, turns 10 today. So it's the 10th anniversary of JDF. All right, to get a shout out for JDF right there. So how many people here are familiar with the Joint Development Foundation? A few of you, not everybody. Well, the people, of course, the people who work there. So the JDF is a standards body within the Linux Foundation. And there are two super cool things about JDF. One, JDF has gotten consensus, the Joint Development Foundation has gotten consensus from the world's leading technology companies for a set of configurable intellectual property agreements that they've all sort of pre-agreed to. So when they go and start a standards development effort, they can go and sort of say, okay, I want a permissive license, a restrictive license, I want this kind of patent policy, I want that kind of patent policy, and can essentially just in a couple of days or hours configure an IP sharing agreement for the standard that normally would take months and in some cases years of work to negotiate. For all you open source snobs out there who would look down on standards development organizations because they were too slow, the JDF actually took up that gauntlet to say, how can we improve the way that standards get created so that they're faster and they keep up with the pace of open source development? The other thing that I think is notable about the Joint Development Foundation is the fact that open source and standard setting as sort of a pantheon of co-development are basically merging. When I go to different technology companies around the world, what I see happening is the open source program office is being merged with the standard development office and set of practices. And that's because it's all essentially a similar set of work, right? It's intellectual property sharing, it's setting policy about decision making for important technology. It's all about building a consortium around a agreed upon set of tech, whether that tech is an actual open source reference implementation or a specification. And as JDF turns 10, I think it has really become an important symbol in the merging of these two worlds. And the Linux Foundation really wants to play a leadership role in a new kind of hybrid standards development organization and open source foundation that can really bring both of these worlds together. So I think that is what marks the most important part of the 10th year anniversary of the Joint Development Foundation. So kudos to the JDF team on your 10th year anniversary, and here's to 10 more. Next, we're announcing the OpenSTX project. So this is a wireless networking technology. So it's synchronous transmission-based wireless networking, STX. And this is an alternative to conventional wireless systems. What this does is it enables very tightly synchronized transmissions with near zero collision interference or latency. So this is ideal for environments where timing, reliability, power efficiency are critical. What you may not know is the Linux Foundation and our Linux Foundation networking group are home to some of the most important networking technology in the world. For example, our open networking automation platform powers and manages the wireless networks for billions of wireless users worldwide. And now we're reaching down into these new layers of technology to create new solutions, all again out in the open. So if you're in the networking industry, if you're interested in telecommunications or wireless technology, this is something that, while early days, I think is going to be important in the years to come. And with that, we have our next big announcement that I'm very, very excited about in the world of artificial intelligence. So for such a long time, artificial intelligence conversations have been essentially centered around frontier models. You know, like, what is ChatGPT doing for you? And it's largely been centered around, chatbots itself. And one of the big challenges for the industry when we ask CEOs and business leaders about how they're implementing these artificial intelligence models has been how to actually connect those models to actual enterprise resources and how to actually deploy this stuff at the last mile in an effective way. How many people here have heard about the new and most buzziest part of AI, agentic AI, or AI agent technology? This is like, you know, it's so crazy that models are actually last year's thing, and now they've all kind of been open sourced, and you know, we all kind of take for granted that there's increasingly decent progress on frontier models. But the new big thing in AI is how we can deploy agents to really connect artificial intelligence to enterprise workflows to enable, you know, advanced manufacturing automation or automate a lot of business processes that really haven't been automated yet. What we're gonna need to enable these AI agents to actually work is a new set of ways for these AI agents to communicate. Think of this as sort of an HTTP, you know, an internet protocol for AI agents. Without a standardized way for the agents to actually communicate, authenticate, secure themselves, like talk to each other, which requires a new way, a new context to do it, this stuff's not gonna work. Recently, there have been some emerging new technologies and protocols that are coming to the consensus of being that new HTTP for agentic AI. And we're happy to announce that Google is bringing the agent-to-agent protocol project to the Linux Foundation as a first contribution in the agentic space. And I would love to invite Mike Smith from Google up on stage to talk about the A2A project. So Mike, come on.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As Jen said, I'm Mike Smith. I'm a software engineer at Google, where I work on the Agent-to-Agent project. I'm super excited for Agent-to-Agent to be joining the Linux Foundation. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to come up here and share some perspectives as someone who's been working on the protocol for a while. The first is that this is where we always wanted to go. When we set out to design Agent-to-Agent, we knew we needed a truly open protocol that would work for anyone, be it like individual developers all the way up to large enterprises. And we knew it needed to be independent and vendor agnostic, not dependent on the specific agent stack that you're using, the LLM. And so we had this dream of like, what if we could join the Linux Foundation, right? Like I've seen the success of other Linux Foundation projects. I'm a huge fan of the CNCF. I love that landscape document. I love to just browse that in my free time. And so we were like, what if we could be part of that, right? Our little protocol growing up, going out into the world as part of the Linux Foundation. And so I'm really thrilled that we could make that happen. The second is that I want to acknowledge all the work that went into this. We have multiple companies on board. We have AWS, Cisco, Microsoft, Salesforce, SAP, and ServiceNow, as well as Google, now jointly shepherding the future of A2A. And a big collaboration like this between so many companies is no small thing. It does not happen overnight. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank everyone across all these companies who are helping make this happen. We couldn't do it without you guys, and thank you very much for being part of it. Thanks. Finally, thank you guys. Finally, I wanted to make it a little bit more concrete. I'm an engineer who works on the protocol, and sometimes like these announcements around like the future and the organizations and the governance bodies can kind of like get lost with what this actually means for the day-to-day, right? And so specifically what's happening is the GitHub repositories, which keep our specification and documentation, our SDKs, and our developer tooling, are all going to be moving to a new GitHub organization that is jointly controlled by members from all of these companies. That includes our NPM and PyPy packages as well. And this is something I'm really looking forward to, right? Like as an engineer working on a small team, there's about 6 of us at Google who work on this. I'm getting a larger group of people to help do my code reviews, to do design reviews with me, triage issues. I get a lot of things assigned to me that I don't have the time to handle. And we have a lot of things that we want to do. And so expanding this to bring more people is going to be extremely useful for us. If you want to hear me talk more about Agent to Agent, I've got a talk coming up at 10:20, so just continue sitting where you are, and I'll be back. And check out our blog posts on the Google Developer blog, where we talk more about what the future looks like and what we're excited about. That's it for me. Thank you very much. I hand it back to Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, mark this moment, folks. You know, one of the things that I think is an interesting metaphor here is in the early days of electricity, they would bring electricity into a factory, and they would just sort of replace the steam turbine with an electrical connection, and realize that that really didn't bring a ton of efficiency. And it took literally like a decade for electricity to be adopted with all of the different ways that you could create smaller electrified stations and really enable the true value of electricity. Now, in the area of artificial intelligence, that seems to be happening at lightning speed for sure. But mark my words, things like agent to agent, these kind of technologies, this is what's really bringing AI to that last mile to make it effective and make it a useful part of the work that folks do every day. So I look forward to hearing more from Mike on this. It also illustrates the importance of shared governance in building these technologies. You know, the internet really wouldn't be what it is if it didn't have a set of open source infrastructure and a shared and open governance that no single organization controls. And that has been something that at the Linux Foundation we've advocated for, and we've repeatedly seen brought to bear in order for important technology to be protected and to flourish in the long term.